how's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at a found footage classic, and that is Paranormal Activity from 2007. This is written and directed by Oren Peli and stars Katie Featherston, Micah Sloat, and Mark Fredrichs. And yeah, this is quite an interesting movie. I remember the big boom when it came out. Everyone talking about, have you seen Paranormal Activity? Oh my gosh, it's so scary, and it really got to me. This was quite the thing, and it really spread over everything. It made a huge splash back in the day. Back in the day being over 15 years ago, which is crazy to think about. But anyway, I find it an interesting thing with found footage movies. A lot of other horror subgenres have a clear point of inspiration. Maybe they weren't the absolute first, but like Night of the Living Dead inspired all the zombie movies that came after. Shark movies, we can thank Jaws for that. Exorcism possession movies, we have The Exorcist. But with found footage, we really had three key movies that got us in here. Cannibal Holocaust was the first one. It showed us what a found footage movie was. And then we had the Blair Witch Project, which firmly established it as a genre. After Blair Witch, other people would make more found footage films, but it was kind of a niche horror geek thing. It wasn't mainstream until Paranormal Activity came out. Paranormal Activity was the one that finally cracked the floodgates, and found footage became quite the thing after 2007. It was really an amazing period in time. It really did change the horror landscape for quite a while. This is the movie that's why we had so many of the ones that followed. Now, looking back on Paranormal Activity now, there is a bunch of stuffy critic types that absolutely hate this movie, and I understand where they're coming from, but still, I will say, probably want to reconsider that. Now, a lot of people hated it just because people wouldn't shut up about it, and part of me understands that. It did make a big boom, and people were tired of hearing about it, and I remember a lot of people saying, I'm just staring at these people in their bed for like way too long and it's way too slow. But then there was also all the tropes people criticized it for, all these things they had seen in a million other found footage movies, but I have to remind them that they need to think of it with the perspective of the time it came out. When it came out, those weren't tropes, those were new. There's a whole big difference between following a trope and starting a trope. And this movie, so many other people have used elements of it in their found footage movies. You have to really remember, this is when it was new, and this is what established it. And I can totally see why so many people were scared of this movie when it came out. It takes place in a normal, realistic house. Not a scary, haunted house, not a place you'd have to go out of your way to get to. But this was a house that a lot of people who saw the movie either lived in or lived in a house kind of like it. It was just a normal American house. And this was a movie that said the horror could be there. And it also said, with found footage, which like I said, it was a thing, but it wasn't super big, it introduced a lot of audiences to this hyper-realistic style of filmmaking. The acting, they got people that could do pretty decent improv. It all felt real and naturalistic, and the scares didn't start off too big. They started off as, really realistic scares. I mean, this was 2007, YouTube was in its infancy, but we all had seen a few ghost videos, and this really did remind us of those. It really did seem like something that could have happened. The footage says it was real, and it could happen right at your home, right after you came home from the movie. And yeah, no, it totally got to people. And there's several really good iconic moments in here, things that we remember from this movie. She gets out of bed, she's half asleep and possessed by the evil and is just staring at her boyfriend sleeping for like hours. That's an iconic scene. The scene where she gets drug out of bed, I cannot tell you how many movies decided to emulate that, and horror movies dragging people around really became a thing after this. One of my favorite moments, though, is she's standing there, she's all scared and can't move, and she says, "I think I feel it breathing," and you see just a little puff of wind move her hair, just a little bit. And I remember so many people going, "Did you see that one scene where her hair moved a little?" Not everyone saw it. Some people missed it, but you gotta pay attention. You gotta see her hair move a little bit. Yeah, this was fun. And what I'm saying is, even though this is the one that started the floodgates and not everyone's a fan of that, and I can get why some people don't like it, but you gotta admit that it wouldn't have had an impact if there wasn't something behind it, if there wasn't something that really resonated and really scared people. Paranormal Activity's fun. I mean, what am I gonna say? It's a good horror movie, and I feel that there's a lot of stuffy critics that don't give it the credit it deserves, but it wouldn't have made the boom if there wasn't a spark, you know? And there really is something here. Let's talk a bit about the plot. No major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and do a little bit of an analysis. We open up with a guy who's got a new camera, and he's playing with it and showing it to his girlfriend, and he's bought it because they've recently experienced some paranormal activity. And we can see the difference between the two characters really quickly, and I really do like that. We get Micah, who's bought the camera, he wants to film the ghost. This is kind of new and exciting for him, and he's in some ways really not taking it seriously. He's like, "Oh, there's ghosts in our house, how cool, let's get them on video." Contrast that with Katie, and Katie, turns out she's been periodically haunted for all her life. We get, where it's like she'd be oppressed sometimes, and then there'd be a few good years, and then it would come back. And seeing the waves of hauntings start up again, you can tell that it's getting to her, and you can tell that she's like, "Oh no, not again, oh no." And I do like, you get scenes where like Micah suggests they try to communicate with it through a Ouija board, and she just snaps and says, "No, we're not doing that." And I really do like the contrast between these two characters. Micah is like a day trader who really likes technology, and you can tell that he's kind of a little bit of a privileged dork. He kind of lucked out in life to get to where he is, and he just wants to play with his cool toys. They don't make him 100% of an evil jerk, which would have been a little bit tempting to do. He is a hero, but he's flawed, as in he doesn't necessarily take all this stuff super seriously, and you can tell that he is a little childish, and I do like that it isn't 100% perfect. And that does lead to a lot of drama throughout the film, and you can see things change when Micah starts to take it a little more seriously. That does show things are getting dangerous, and then, when you see it weigh on them, he even goes, "It's your ghost." And yeah, it does hurt when he kind of shifts the blame over. But anyway, at one point in the film, they get a paranormal investigator to take a look at their house, and he says, "I don't think this is a ghost. It's probably a demon, and this is way above my pay grade. Hold out until we can get someone better to take a look at this, and also try not to provoke it," and filming it is kind of provoking it. So the couple knows that they are in deeper danger, but is that going to stop Micah from filming? In no way. And we do get the escalating in scares. We start off, the scares are very small. A light or a shadow or a door opening. Maybe you hear a sound. It is pretty small, but that helps you sell the fact that it's realistic. And the scares do amp up and they do get bigger, especially at the very end. But a lot of the scares are sold as being bigger than they are because of the reactions, and you can see towards the end of the film it really starts to wear on Katie, and she really starts to get oppressed by it, and that helps the scares have more weight without introducing a bunch of CGI or anything. But we also get the iconic bedroom shot. He decides to set up a camera while they're sleeping, and my brain goes, boy, that's gigabytes and gigabytes of data. I hope you're not filming on too large of a file, but whatever. He sets up a camera while they're sleeping to see if there's anything in the night. And these shots are long. Paranormal Activity really did the static wide shot really well. It popularized this. In fact, I was actually surprised how much the camera did move in the original Paranormal, because everyone remembers the static wides. But seeing that bedroom, lingering on that shot, knowing that these were your characters, vulnerable and asleep, and anything might happen around them, that was really good, especially when creepy stuff did happen. Like I said, there's a scene where she gets up in the middle of the night and just stares at her boyfriend for hours. What a creepy concept, that something could mess with you, could control you when you are under, and just make you do something so strange and creepy, like standing for hours and hours at a time just staring at someone. That was really great. That was iconic. But needless to say, the influence does really pour down on Katie, and it does at times really start to get her, and you do wonder, will they be able to hold out in time to get the professionals' help? There are, like I said, bigger scares towards the end. There's a really fun sequence where they leave the camera on this Ouija board, and it does, at the end of the movie, start to build into some bigger stuff, but in a naturalistic way. Kind of the case of, I have you now, you'll listen and see what's going on, even if it gets a little unbelievable at the end. But overall, love it or hate it, you really gotta acknowledge why Paranormal Activity made such a big splash. It brought the horror to the home. It showed people what found footage could do with realistic scares and realistic improvisational acting. It felt like something that could have happened at a place where you could be, and you can see why it led the spark. This is the movie that's why we have so many found footage movies today. And yeah, there was something there. There was something real. There was something that hit people with this one, regardless of how people took it after, and that we definitely did get some cash grabs after this. You can't deny that in the first one, there's really something there. I have this pack with the first of the sequels. They would make one on Paramount Plus as well, and I'm still looking for a copy of the semi-official spin-off Tokyo Night. But that being said, this movie did get a ton of sequels. I really hope to look into them. I've seen most of them, and I remember the first two sequels were actually really, really good. So I'll check those out pretty soon. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my found footage playlist where I've talked about several other found footage movies like VHS and Troll Hunter and Wreck. So if you want to see me talk about more found footage, you can click right there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.